Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. Hey, Ted Coley.
Hello.
What is Beacon of Speech? Beacon of Speech is, oh man. Today we are talking about the erosion of free speech in America. As we speak, the evil forces across America are taking their tentacles and taking away our speech. Right now is... Now, before we start, almost every episode I wear a hat. I have not got my hair cut since the summer. Look at this little boy haircut. I look like I could be in the Beatles, except for the rest of my face. My hair is just a mess. Okay?
So you just got it cut?
I haven't got it cut at all. I got it cut
okay.
like in summer. All I did was wash it by and put on a hat. It looks horrible. If you look at all the old Beacon of Speeches now, you'd probably be like, well, at least I have hair, right?
Exactly.
But it still looks like little boy hair.
Now you're saying that the last time you got your hair cut was summer.
Summer, yeah.
Well, it doesn't grow in the back?
No, it's
Did you cut the back?
If you pull it back, it was like all the way shaved down. So like my hair is just a butchered mess today. Because I washed it, but then it just flopped out. And I'm like, I gotta get my hair cut. But it looks bad. There's nothing you can do with it at this point. And it looks like it's like 1987 all over again. Because this is the same haircut I had. Is that the same haircut you had in 87? I'm just teasing, Ted. But yeah, so please ignore
mine
my horrible hair.
back in 87, mine kind of looked like that, only it was like wavy.
Well, trust me, if my hair wasn't so old and flat, it would be wavy. So why is freedom of speech under attack today, Ted? Do you want to know why?
Yeah.
I wrote down a whole bunch of absurd things that made me want to just go out and punch people in the face. Okay, now,
more so than usual?
More so than usual. Punching people in the face is not freedom of speech. That is action. If I go around and punch people in the face, that is simple assault. If I punch a child in the face, that's probably worse than simple assault. Okay? We are talking about exaggerated, what Fred is talking about. He's talking about exaggerating. I don't really want to punch people in the face. I do not want to simply assault them. But it makes me want to punch people in the face. Now, why are people taking away free speech for, Ted?
Because they don't like people's views?
Yeah, they don't like people's views. Facebook, they are guilty of free speech this week. Some girl, her boyfriend broke up with her, and she got used and abused by men, and she wrote the simple sentence, men are scum. Ted Coley, do you agree that men are scum?
Some are.
See? And I don't necessarily disagree or agree, but she has the right to say men are scum. And she's frustrated, and she's not saying kill the men. She's not saying punch the men. She's saying men are scum. Facebook deleted her post, and they suspended her account because they said that she was taking broad views against a cross-section of people, meaning men. Okay? If you can't say men are scum on Facebook, why does Facebook exist? Facebook is a private company. They can do what they wish. But don't come out and say that you're a free speech company when you delete men are scum. It goes to show the erosion of free speech in America. Now, that is... Me and you can laugh about that, right?
Well, the thing that I'm wondering about, I'm surprised that Facebook did that only because she was talking about men.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if it was like any minority group, then I could understand that Facebook would do that. But usually...
Now, and this is why I want to get into it with you. Facebook has logarithms and algorithms and complex equations to weed out hate speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or... what you do is on Facebook, there's a little flag that says you can flag this comment as inappropriate. Then it goes to a computer at Facebook, and then they read through comments and then judge whether they're appropriate or not. So the logarithm probably did not catch men are scum. Somebody probably flagged it, like me or you, right? Not me or you, but some men. Said, we are offended. We men snowflakes are offended. And then Facebook's like, yeah, you can't say men are scum. Click, and off it goes, right? Then all of a sudden, you find out that Facebook has a judge, jury, and executioner. What is free speech? What is not free speech according to Facebook?
Well, you know what's funny about that is that I'm a man, and I'm not offended by what she said.
I'm not offended either. And that's the whole thing.
And I'm offended by almost everything now.
You're offended, I'm offended. But the whole thing is that where is Facebook's line of free speech? Well, you could see that the line for free speech of Facebook is like way over here, not where it should be. You see what I'm saying? And they're like, we want you to use Facebook, but we don't want you to say anything controversial. Okay, well, then don't let, you know what I mean? They want, every company wants to have their cake and eat it. And they're like, after a few controversies, they're like, well, we'll hire more people so we can flag more hate speech, right? Now, I saw that and I laughed. Men are scum, right? But it's a simple thing that me and you can talk about. Now, if that was the only thing that happened this week, you'd be like, Fred, you know what? You're just reaching. You're looking for things to talk about. The CDC. This week, are you familiar with the CDC? What is the CDC, Ted Coley?
Center for Disease Control?
Center for Disease Control. They said that they want to be more politically correct. Why does the CDC care about being more politically correct?
I don't know, but you would think they would be just focused on disease.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. Your job is the CDC. You put out reports about disease and health and all that other stuff. This week, they have the 7 dirty words that they do not want used in their research papers. If you use these words in research... Now...
Are they the same 7 dirty words that...
This is where we're going. That George Carlin used. George Carlin said the 7 dirty words. Beep, 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 beep. We can't say on Beacon of Speech. Right? Now, I could write them out and write them on the blog. And then I could, put like M dash 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 F dash dash. You see what I'm saying? Oh no, I'm not going to let you look at the 7. This is where we're going with this. What are the 7 banned words from the CDC? You're not allowed to look, but I'm going to let you guess a few of them, and then I'm going to tell you what they are. And this is one of the most absurd things I have ever heard of in my life. Again, the erosion of free speech in America and political correctness gone wrong. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a hint. It's not F dash 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 because the CDC never used that in their research papers, right? And it's not the MF dash dash. You see what I'm saying?
Does it have something to do with diseases, like slang word for diseases?
Nope. Absolutely no. Nothing to do with disease. Can you name 7 words that the CDC would ban?
7 words that...
Do you want me to give you a few hints?
Yeah, because
you want to.
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Okay. Word number 1 is diversity. Why would you ban the word diversity?
Diversity.
Yeah.
The CDC does not want to use the word diversity anymore.
Yes.
I don't know.
They said that there's words that are better because words like diversity give a connotation of groups that they are testing, that they can use better words. And you're like, what do you mean? Right? Well, I read the article and it still didn't make sense. Let me give you another hint.
Is it like saying handicapable instead of handicapped?
Exactly. Right. So another one was they banned the word evidence-based or science-based. They said evidence-based or science-based has a connotation that it is the be-all, end-all. Please put in your papers CDC-based. The CDC has found, okay, instead of science has found, because the CDC is saying that we are not science, we are only a group in the scientific community, okay? So they banned the words diversity, evidence-based, and science-based, which is literally absurd, okay? Would you like to try and guess other words that the CDC banned?
Other words that the CDC banned.
And again, this is a government agency in America banning words. We do not want you to use these words in research papers.
I have no idea.
When I read this list, I'm like, I could read this list all day, and I still don't get it.
So You would have never come up with these.
I would never come up with any of these words. These are all managers who have too much time on their hands. Fourth word, entitlement. Okay? Certain people think they have entitlements in America. Would you say that's true?
Mm-hmm.
The CDC does not want to predispose that anybody in America feels that they have entitlements. Even if they think that, they don't want that in written form. Would you have guessed that word?
No.
Here's another one. Vulnerable. Please do not use the word vulnerable in any of your research. Because vulnerable implicates, you know how, let's use sex, okay? There are certain things you can do in sex that makes you more at risk. Would you say if you don't have sex, you are not at risk?
Mm-hmm.
And certain types of sex, which we won't get into because we're, beacon of speech, put you more at risk to get a disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having sex with your female that you've been having sex with for the last 10 years, you're less at risk than if you fly to Africa.
You're female.
Yeah, your female.
What are
my
you saying,
female,
you own her?
Yeah, your female, my female. Or say you fly to Africa and have sex with a male prostitute in a large city in Africa. That probably raises your rates for at-risk behavior. Okay? So they don't want you to use the term vulnerable. They want you to use more at-risk type words. Okay? Now, the reason you don't use the word vulnerable is because groups aren't vulnerable, because vulnerable can be used as a code word for any group. Let's say Hispanic. Okay? Instead of saying Hispanic, you're like vulnerable is code word for Hispanic. And they're like, oh, no, don't use the word vulnerable. You have to use at risk. You see what I'm saying? Would you like to take another one?
Yeah, just
fetus. They said because of the abortion battles, the word fetus has a negative connotation and they would prefer born child or preborn child. Okay? Because a fetus has a connotation that people rally around either for or against in the abortion battle. Now, would you have guessed fetus?
No.
The last word is the only one that I think you might be able to guess is transgender.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Do not use the word transgender. Why don't you use the word transgender? Because it is a vague term which does not capture... You have to be more specific than transgender. Transgender is a vague term with negative connotations.
Well, that's like now, there's not two genders anymore. There's like 50 or something like that. It's like, I heard somebody reading those off, and I have no idea what any of that means.
Right, and I agree. So the 7 words again: fetus, transgender, diversity, entitlement, vulnerable, evidence-based, science-based. Those are the 7 words banned by the CDC. Now, I read that story, and I'm like, the CDC has got a manager who has too much time on their hands, and they need to worry about their research. Now, Fred Hunt, are you just going to name obscure examples all day today? Yeah. You want to hear another one?
Yeah.
USA Today. Somebody wrote, they had a guest editor, right? Came in and wrote, "It is time for this Christmas song to be banned." The USA Today. Okay? What song did the USA Today 3 days ago want banned?
Wait a minute, I know this.
Oh, you must have heard it.
No, I didn't hear it. White Christmas?
You are half right. Okay. Oh, wait. I know how you heard this.
I did not hear it.
You messed up my skit.
I did not. Seriously, I did not hear it.
Twice, you did hear it. I'm going to tell you why. On the Blaze, White Christmas was deemed too white, therefore racist on the Blaze. So you might have heard it because it was picked up by Glenn Beck.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to Glenn Beck at all this week, they might have picked that up. So according to the Blaze, White Christmas, it's deeply racist because only whites deserve a white Christmas, even though they're talking about snow. Okay? So why would you... And again, the Blaze isn't reporting it. They're saying people are trying to ban white Christmas. Okay? Well...
Like the person who wrote that song really meant like...
Yeah, and it's 100 years old. And
of white people.
It's absurd. So we're gonna go back out. What is this? So you guessed the second part of my thing. The USA Today said that "Baby, It's Cold Outside" needs to be banned. Now the Blaze didn't say that White Christmas needs to be banned. They said that people are trying to ban it. USA
yeah, because
Today,
that. I did hear that one. I
Right.
think because that's sexual harassment, right?
Yep. "Baby, It's Cold Outside," and the quote from USA Today was, "It's too rapey." R-A-P-E-Y. Like, hey, don't leave. You want to stay here, baby. Now, we are now living in a world where you're trying to ban Christmas songs that are 100 years old by...
Pretty soon you're going to have to like consult a lawyer when you want to get together with somebody.
Right. And again...
Like you won't be able to ask a girl out. You'll have to call your lawyer and have him contact her.
The reason I bring it up is because the Blaze example was kind of like me and you. They're like, this is absurd. The USA Today, on the other hand...
Do you think on the last show, me asking for a date with Martha Quinn, was that sexual harassment?
No, but I thought it was funny. And Martha Quinn, she might take you up on it. She's probably looking for she's probably looking for a third... I don't know Martha Quinn, but she might be looking for a third husband. But USA Today, they presented it as this is an opinion that has valid concerns. And we want to present this to you as maybe this lady does have a valid concern. Now, they can do that, but now it is to the point of absurdity. Again, the whole premise of Beacon of Speech is, you know what I don't like in America? There's a lot of things, okay? If we started banning everything that I don't like, it would be a great world. But you can't run the world banning things that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with you. Would you like to ban things you don't like? But me and you have to deal with it, right? In America, you have a whole, and I'm not saying a group of people, old people, young people, they don't understand that we have to live in America today. Everything is offensive to somebody, and they want it banned. If you start banning your stuff, the next thing they do is ban my stuff. Mm-hmm. And people do not understand. That is what freedom of speech is all about. And again, we're going to hammer around the edges. I understand you can't say X, you can't say Y. Right? The very edges. 99% of speech is protected in America. And when you start banning songs like "Baby, It's Cold Outside," which are literally right down milquetoast generic songs, you are in a heap of trouble. Because that's when the fascists come in. And I had to tell you those examples because I'm like, this is insane. Now, one of the greatest threats to America is the free press. Did you know that, Ted Coley?
No, I did not.
Who said that this week? Who said one of the greatest, not only in America, but in all of Western civilization, one of the greatest threats to civilization is the free press? Who would say such a thing?
Who would say such a thing? Was it somebody in the political realm?
No.
Let me think. I don't know.
Think of a world leader, but not in the political realm.
A world leader.
But not political.
World leader.
The Pope.
Oh, here we go again.
Would you like to hear what the Pope had to say?
The Pope said this, right?
The Pope said this. And again, he said it in RG.
We've been Pope-free for so long.
We have been Pope-free for so long at the Beacon of Speech. Do you
see why this guy gets on my nerves?
I like the Pope, okay? And
That's because you're afraid of him.
I am afraid of the Pope.
You're afraid he's going to put a hex on you.
I am afraid of the Pope. Now, what the Pope said is, I can barely say this without getting in trouble because we are going to get in themes that are so horrible and deplorable.
Now, wait a minute. What was the original quote that he said?
I'm going to read it to you. But I have to put a disclaimer. Children, please do not listen to what the Pope said and our discussion of it because it is going to be graphic and have a lot of cuss words in it. Okay, again, this has to do with the Pope. Are you ready to hear this quote?
So, wait a minute. The Pope was swearing? Or you're going to swear?
No, I'm going to swear because in relation to what the Pope says. And I'll explain later, but we can't deal with what the Pope says without being graphic. So children, please cover your ears or stop listening to Beacon of Speech. The two of you will actually listen. Okay? The Pope and the media, and I took this straight from the news, okay? Who'd I take it from? NPR, National Public Radio, which is basically PBS, right?
Mm-hmm.
There, and I'm going to read it straight so I don't mess it up. There is an urgent need for news communicated with serenity.
Serenity now.
Yeah, so we're already out.
Serenity
Precision
now.
and completeness. Okay?
I don't, wait a minute. Say this again.
News needs to be communicated with serenity, which is not us. Precision, we actually beat things to death, so I would say we're fairly precise. And completeness. Okay, not in a 30-second soundbite.
Who's saying this?
The Pope.
Okay.
The news needs to have calm language, which leaves me out, right? So as to flavor a fruitful reflection, carefully weighted, which means probably on a teleprompter, right? And with clear words, which is definitely not me. Would you say that's true? Which reject the inflation of the allusive, strident, and ambiguous speech. Meaning, the news media needs to be more responsible and not cause more problems than it solves. Now, even if you don't like me and you know that I am insightful, loud. Let's say loud. I'm loud. Excitable. I am not calm. Okay? So the Pope would not be fans of Beacon of Speech. Okay? It gets better.
Man, it's like, what did the Pope swallow, a dictionary or something?
Well, that's the thing. Sermonizing about... Oh, I'm sorry. So that was what the Pope said. It needs to be strident, allusive. Like you said, he swallowed a dictionary. This is what NPR said. Sermonizing about the media isn't uncommon territory for the Pope. Last year, as NPR's Bill Chappell reported, he called on journalists and media consumers, and this is again,
to avoid Beacon of Speech?
To avoid the sickness of
Beacon of Speech.
Coprophilia. Coprophilia. Is that the word? Coprophilia. The sickness of coprophilia. That's what the news media needs to avoid. Ted Coley, do you know what...
Is it possible that he means corporophilia?
No. Do you know what coprophilia is?
I have no idea.
The Pope says you should avoid the sickness of coprophilia, which is comparing the love of scandal to an abnormal interest in feces that can include elements of sexual arousal.
Wait a minute, say this again?
I know this. I'm trying to be precise. I'm trying to use clear words, and I'm trying to not be ambiguous. The Pope says to avoid the sickness of coprophilia. Okay, this is the Pope's words. Well, I don't know what the hell coprophilia is. Coprophilia is comparing a love of scandal to an abnormal interest in feces that can include elements of sexual arousal. So coprophilia is, and so exactly what the Pope is saying is people get aroused by feces, okay? Mm-hmm. not normal people, but certain, and that's coprophilia. And he is comparing people who are in the media who love to gossip and love to exaggerate and sensationalize. He's comparing those journalists to the people who are aroused by feces.
It's kind of disturbing that that's the comparison that he makes. It almost makes me wonder what's going on with him.
Well, that's the whole thing. I read the quote, and say it was in USA Today or CNN, I wouldn't have even brought it up. It was on National Public Radio, Ted. And they cited their own story on National Public Radio from last year. Now, this is very disturbing. Does the Pope have freedom of speech, Ted Coley?
Yes.
And he can say, I am not even saying the Pope is wrong. And I have to look at the paper because I can't even pronounce it. I'm not even saying the Pope is wrong by saying that some people in journalism have coprophilia. What I'm saying is that the Pope is precise, and I know exactly what he's saying, but it is disturbing that the Pope is saying this.
Yeah.
Okay? The Pope lives in Italy. Okay? How many people... Yeah, you can go ahead and look. How many people in Italy are throwing hardballs at the Pope? You see what I'm saying? So he's probably talking about like Charlie Hebdo in France. He's probably talking about stuff like Daily
You know what
Mail.
I'm saying? Why couldn't he compare a love of scandal to something else?
I know.
Why is he thinking about that?
I didn't even know that word existed. I learned a new word from the Pope. But it goes back to, he's probably talking about the Daily Mail in Great Britain.
It just sounds like the Pope has his own problems.
Yeah, the Pope, there's something going on with the Pope that we don't want to talk about. And he's probably talking about like TMZ in America, Daily Mail in Great Britain.
I'm not saying that he has that problem. I'm saying, why is he thinking about that?
Right. Well, he's very well read. And in Argentina, the Pope started out as a priest. And I remember him saying that he wanted to get to know all the people. And this is what I like about the Pope. The Pope believes in a hands-on ministry. It's like Mother Teresa. If you don't walk with the poor, you don't know what the poor feel. I've seen stories about him when he used to ride the subway in Argentina when he was a priest. And, so little destitute kids, he'd pay the quarter or whatever so they could, ride on the subway and everything. I like this Pope. Okay? But some of the analogies he uses and some of the leftist socialist ways that he espouses, I'm like, is very surprising for a Pope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not Pope-like. And the thing is that I know I give the Pope a hard time, but
Yeah, you give the Pope a hard time.
Well,
I do not.
Well, listen, I'm trying to have an open dialogue, with the
Pope. So go ahead, I'm listening.
I'm trying to have an open dialogue with the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying that I would like to explore some of these differences.
Yes.
And it seems like, you're not allowed to do that because he's the Pope.
Right.
He's not God.
Yeah. And trust me, you are 100% right. I'm just saying that the Pope, in his own way, is saying the free press is one of the problems in Western society. And the Pope is correct in that the free press, when it's sensationalized, can cause more problems than it creates. Me and you would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what is the solution if you start taking away free speech? Again, we're a free speech site. What happens if we took away all the free speech that the Pope says you're not allowed to have?
Some of the things that he has said, maybe we should block some of the things that he just said there.
Yeah. It's like...
his comparison almost proved his own point.
Right. And we're...
This is why you should not be allowed to say whatever you want, because of the things I just said.
Right. Exactly. Which proves my whole point. Right now, me and you can talk about ambiguous speech. We have 10 viewers.
So the Pope is saying, see what happens when you let people say whatever they want?
Yeah.
They say stuff like I
Yeah,
just
they
said.
say stuff like I just said. We have 10 viewers, okay? Let's pretend, and I'm being dead serious, okay? Let's pretend that Mike Trevisano died, and me and you took over for Mike Trevisano, okay? And we are on WTAM. We're heard in 38 states and half of Canada, okay? And me and you, we are going to talk about the sickness of coprophilia. How long do you think we have jobs from our corporate overlords? Boom, we're fired. Okay? We're gone. And it's like, I would think that coprophilia is past the line that we're allowed to talk about if we are owned by a corporate entity. Okay? Would you say that's probably true?
Yeah.
Arousal by feces. I'm sorry. I still can't get over this is what the Pope was saying.
Yeah. Anybody talking about that is disturbing.
Yeah.
But the Pope, of all people.
Yeah. You know, Ted, we were talking about sex, right? And we're being very vague. Is there any sex that you want to talk about with your mom? All right? There's no sex I want to talk about with my mom. No sex you want to talk about with your mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not speaking out of turn, right?
No.
I don't want to talk about sex with the Pope. Even if it's normal, heterosexual, in a monogamy, I don't want to talk about that with the Pope. You know, wink, wink. I'm married. And the Pope's like, oh yeah, you're married. I get it. Wink, wink. And that's all I want said. I don't want to have a dissertation with the Pope about it. I don't want to tell the Pope what arouses me, what doesn't arouse me, what may have aroused me in my youth. You see what I'm saying?
This Pope is almost like he comes out of left field.
Well, when
you know what I'm saying? The stuff that he says, I'm like, the Pope said that? It's not just this.
Yeah.
He talks about stuff that you wouldn't think the Pope would be talking about.
Yeah. And the thing is, and that's why I love him. Because he goes, well, I want to be very clear. The press is very irresponsible. Well, how irresponsible are they? Instead of saying something like their shoddy reporting can get people killed because ABC, he says, oh no, we use it, and he uses the coprophilia analogy, and I'm like, oh my God, how'd you come up with that analogy? I'm sorry, I can't get over how bad my hair looks. Okay? Now, I don't want to keep talking about this because I'm just beating a dead horse. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, oh my Lord. And I'm like, if you let the Pope draw the lines for free speech, I think we'd all be very screwed. Okay? And you have, again, I'm Catholic. You're more or less Catholic. Mm-hmm. You can't set free speech parameters based on what the Pope says. You can't what a Jewish a rabbi says, what a Baptist preacher says. You see what I'm saying? You can't base your free speech. People in religious studies have to be able to. You have to be able to say they have their freedom and you have their freedom, but they cannot dictate the freedoms of your society. Mm-hmm. Because the religious are usually the ones who have the narrowest vision of freedom. Would you say that's usually true?
Yeah.
A general rule. Okay? And like I said, I'm not saying the Pope is wrong. Okay? I'm saying...
He's weird.
Talking about weird, we're going to switch gears. Okay? A couple weeks ago, we were bashing on Rolling Stone magazine. Okay?
I hope the Pope's not going to be mad at me.
Rolling Stone magazine. Do you remember when we were talking about Rolling Stone magazine? Do you remember what we were talking about?
No. Refresh my memory.
We were talking about the music documentary about Rolling Stone magazine and about Jan Wenner, whatever the hell his name is. Okay? And I was watching some of it over at a family member's house. Right? And basically, Rolling Stone loves promoting Rolling Stone. One of the things that when Rush Limbaugh first came out, okay, do you remember Rush Limbaugh? He had his TV show. Did you ever watch the Rush Limbaugh TV
Yeah.
show? And Rush Limbaugh would sit there and he'd do his monologue like we do, and he'd be like, "I'm Rush Limbaugh, and I believe in the right and the conservatism and right, conservatism." And then you'd look in the background. In the background of Beacon of Speech, we have NFL, we have some of this, we have one of the props from the movie, okay? Do you remember what was in the background of the Rush Limbaugh show?
Was there like a bookshelf or something?
Very good. It was a bookshelf. And the reason I always remember the Rush Limbaugh show is he had a bookshelf, and the bookshelf was filled with books. What books were on his bookshelf?
That I don't know.
Rush Limbaugh books.
Oh,
There
okay.
was not War and Peace. There wasn't Little Women. There wasn't...
That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah. It was a bookshelf filled with his books. Literally hundreds of his own books. Some of them would be turned sideways so you could see his face. Some of them would have the back cover, but they were all his books. And I'm like, that has got to be one of the most conceited things I have ever seen in my life.
I think that's, having listened to him for so long, I think that's his sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. You are right.
Because he knows that some people are going to say, look what an arrogant a-hole, but he's just doing it to...
Yeah. But I always remembered that. His thing was his books. A bookshelf full of his books. Why would I have anybody else's books? I just have my books up there. Rolling Stone came out with an article yesterday, and it was the best music documentaries of 2017. Okay? And there were a few music documentaries which I hadn't seen on there, but guess what their number one music documentary of the year was?
Number one music documentary?
Yeah. I'll give you a hint. The byline is Best Music Documentaries in 2017 written by Rolling Stone magazine.
So I don't know. What was the best one?
The Rolling Stone documentary. The number one documentary, according to Rolling Stone magazine, was the Rolling Stone documentary. Which all I could think of was Rush Limbaugh and his bookcases. Like, Rolling Stone put out an article saying how great the Rolling Stone movie was. And I'm like, you have to have a tremendous...
Yeah, but the difference is Rush Limbaugh was probably doing it to be funny. They're probably serious.
They're being serious. This is... Rolling Stone magazine is for sale. And when I think of irresponsible journalism, I think of Rolling Stone magazine. So when the Pope says, you need to have responsible journalists, one of the first magazines I thought of was, you mean like Rolling Stone? That's what the Pope is talking about. Now, I don't know how many music documentaries there are, and I think I've only seen one or two, like on Netflix. But I seriously doubt that the Rolling Stone documentary was really the best documentary of the year. Now, they might be like, well, there was only 8 or 9 music documentaries, and we were the best. And you could argue that point, but it goes back to, everything goes back, with me at least, to agenda. And all these news magazines, this week, I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but me and you are going to touch upon it real quick. Roy Moore and Doug Jones, they ran, and I wrote an article on it on beaconofspeech.com, and I showed you the article. And basically, CNN, they treated Doug Jones like he had just landed on the moon. He was the greatest hero in the history of America. He saved America from this horrible pedophile in Alabama. Okay? And we're not going to rehash the whole Alabama take. Okay? Don't get me wrong. Doug Jones has his own problems. But CNN, their whole agenda is, how do we get Doug Jones elected? Once he is elected, Doug Jones has a mandate, even though he only won by less than the independent vote. Since their guy won, they don't care about independents, right? Mm-hmm. Independents only count when it costs the left elections. When it costs the right elections, they're like, well, it was a mandate. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what the Pope is saying, he's not saying what I'm saying, but what he's he's saying is there's an agenda for all these news medias. And he's saying, news media, you need to be agenda free.
Yeah.
Well,
if that's what he's saying, he's correct.
But if you go to
because you wouldn't, up until, I don't know, 20 years ago, give or take, you didn't even think about whether the news was an agenda. You just thought the news was the news.
Right. Now everything has their agenda. Now, try to name a news source that you don't think has an agenda.
I don't think there is one.
Because I tried to come up with it. I read a top 10s article, and they were like top 10 neutral sites, and it was like CNN, ABC, and I'm like, no. The only things that I think of that are truly neutral are things like AP, Associated Press, and they're like, man shot by another man, right? Man 45 shot by man 37, right? There's no skill in it. All they do is report the facts. Okay? And there's a few other places, but AP is not their own network. AP can do 1,000 stories, and then you pick which AP story you like. You see what I'm saying? So when I think of neutral news organizations, I think of Associated Press. Well, people would be like, well, Associated Press only picks and chooses. No, I don't think that's true. I think Associated Press tries to report all the news, and then other news organizations pick stories from AP. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But when I think of CNN, with the whole Doug Jones victory was so enlightening to me, because I'm like, don't get me wrong, it was nice that he won the election, because I really thought Roy Moore was kind of deplorable. Okay? I did. But he did not invent a cure for cancer. You know what I mean? They treated it like there was no other news on earth. Okay? Their guy won. It was a mandate against Trump. They put a picture in the corner of Trump like this. Trump's mad. My guy lost. Well, it's another way for them to take shots at Trump. It's another excuse to take cheap shots at Trump. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I'm like, the Pope is right, but how, if you say, and again, going back to the Pope's own words, the news needs to be agenda free. Well, what news organizations is he not talking about? Mm-hmm. We want to deliver the news. Okay. We're going to read this. We're going to make sure we do it right. This is the way Beacon of Speech should be. There is an urgent need for news communicated with serenity and precision and completeness, with a calm language so as to favor a faithful reflection. Well, who's putting up with that? People all over Earth are click, 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 turning that off. You see what I'm saying? Where is the line that the Pope is looking for, as opposed to the line where me and you would draw? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, when I think of agenda-free news, I think of like decades ago when it would just be like a guy reading from,
Yeah, a ticker.
Yeah.
The 30s. Well, they'd have the ticker, and it'd be like, power outage in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. L.A. hit by wildfires. Literally, the droning out. I'm thinking of a news feed, but in my head, I'm thinking of Gomez Adams. You remember when he used to look at the stock reports, and he'd see the ticker, and he'd be like, "Oh, my stocks are down. All right."
Is that the Addams Family?
Addams Family, yeah.
See, I tried not to watch that show. It was disturbing to me. There was something about that show that just...
I love the Addams Family. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great. So, but we have to do an abbreviated version of Beacon of Speech today. So, Ted, are you surprised that freedom of speech is under attack in America today?
No.
Are you surprised that it's under attack by the Pope?
At first I was, but no, I'm not.
Not anymore. Do you want to do a song of the day?
Do I want to do a song of the day?
Song of the day.
I'll let you do it.
You'll let me do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think I did the last one.
Oh, okay. What do I want the song of the day?
Hopefully it'll be a song that I actually have heard of.
Oh, no. Okay, I know. This is what I was listening to last night. You ready to hear what I was listening to? You're not going to like it.
What?
There's a band called King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard. Okay? And they're a band from Australia. Are you familiar with King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard?
No.
Okay. They said, we love music and we want to pretend like we're in the 60s. We don't want to be defined by any parameters. They're from Australia.
It makes me think of the guitarist in the band that I was in. He said that he was going to make an album and he was going to call it King Rotten Ass.
Well, King Gizzard put out an album in, I believe it was January, and then they put out a second album, and then they put out a third album, and then a fourth album, and then they're releasing their fifth album this year. Okay? So one of the articles I'm working on for Beacon of Speech...
I'm still thinking about King Rotten Ass.
One of the articles I'm working on is the top 10 songs by King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard. Okay? By listening to all 5 of their albums that they released in 2017, because nobody is releasing 5 albums in a year. Would you say that's fair?
That's correct. Nobody releases 5 albums in a decade.
Nobody really... Exactly. So I'm impressed with King Gizzard, okay? But some of their songs are hit or miss, right? Well, on their second album of the year, I don't remember what it was, but what they did is they tried to make each one of their 5 albums was a concept album. Not concert, but concept. And the second one was like a horror concept. And there was a song on there called Vomit Coffin. Okay? Vomit Coffin, which ties into coprophilia.
Yeah.
Right? Vomit Coffin was actually a really good song. So far I have it listed like at number 2 for the top 10 songs by King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard. So song of the day is called Vomit Coffin. Okay, Ted, are you going to go home and listen to that?
I'm already home.
Are you going to go and listen to Vomit